Derailments like the ones we've seen in Lac-Mégantic, Quebec, and now Gainford, Alberta, are really scary, aren't they? Quiet communities rocked by explosions and the threat of hazardous chemicals. It may or may not surprise you then to know that there have actually been fewer derailments in Canada over the past decade. The perception, though, says my next guest, is very different. Wendy Tadros is chair of the Transportation Safety Board of Canada. She joins me on the phone from Gatineau, Quebec. Wendy, I want to begin with Gainford, Alberta, because it is at the top of our newscast. What's the latest from there?
The latest is that there were a number of cars, 8 cars, that they're conducting a vent and burn operation on overnight. And when those cars are vented and the product is burned off, then we'll be able to get in there and have our investigators take a real careful look at the trucks and the tank cars. I'm
assuming those cars are going to be hot for a while yet. Any idea on the timeline of getting in there?
We won't get in there until we know it's absolutely safe.
You know, this is the third hazardous material derailment in a month. It's merely 3 months after the Lac-Mégantic disaster, and we certainly covered that story. We spoke with people in that community. We're hearing, you know, reverberations of similar issues in Gainford, Alberta. Does that, do you think, fuel the perception of rail safety problems?
I think it does, even though the rate of main track derailments is coming down in Canada. We have a slight spike in the first 8 months of this year, but it's still lower than the 5-year average. But those numbers don't really resonate with Canadians. They're concerned when they see these accidents, and they want to know, quite rightly, what's being done to ensure they won't happen again.
And I mean, the rail companies are fighting these perceptions as well, but I think they're, as you say, that they're grounded in some serious derailments, serious accidents, trauma to people's lives. Any suggestion as to what needs to be done?
I think in this environment there needs to be a real plan, not just talk about numbers and what's going up and what's coming down. There needs to be a real plan. There needs to be concrete steps put in place to make rail operations safer. This is particularly the case with increased shipments of oil by rail. People want to be reassured that there's going to be a proactive plan there, and that the public can count on the safety of the rail system.
There were some safety advisories, though, put into place after Lac-Mégantic. I think one of them had to do with better labeling of contents. Is that just an exterior thing?
No, that has to do with the qualities of the product that's in the tank cars. And so it's important that first responders in particular know what's in those tank cars and how they might be likely to react if they're in a derailment. So that's an important step for the whole system. And those measures have been put in place very quickly following Lac-Mégantic, along with a number of other measures.
But it really doesn't address the derailment issue, does it?
The derailment issue, I mean, derailments are only caused by a finite number of things, and we know what causes derailments. The railway industry knows what causes derailments. To be fair, they have a very large network, and in order to manage their risk, they have some of the most modern trackside scanning equipment and sophisticated ultrasonic testing that's available. So much has been done to improve things over the last 20 years, and I think that's why you've seen the numbers coming down. But the question is, where do we go next? Because in the face of these derailments, more has to be done to reassure the public. And I think that's really predictive modeling. I think that's where we need to go next in the industry.
What does that mean?
You collect data on a proactive basis, and the railways are doing that. But you look harder and harder for those leading indicators so that you can anticipate where the next accident might be likely to happen, and you head it off.
I'm still not getting it.
Pardon me?
I'm still not getting this prediction.
Well, the railways are collecting lots of data on their network from all of these wayside detectors that they have. So they're going to be looking at what are the indicators prior to a derailment, and prior to this derailment, and the one before that, and the one before that. And they mine that to see if they can predict where the next one might be.
Gotcha.
And prevent it before it happens. And that's where I think the industry is going in North America and where it needs to go.
I just want to end our interview with going back to this op-ed piece that you wrote this weekend citing an erosion of public confidence in Canada's rail system. How do you think that confidence can be restored?
Well, that's what I think, is that a proactive plan has to be put in place by the railways, has to be made public, so that people understand exactly what is going to be done to bring that rate down even further.
I want to thank you for your time, Wendy. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Suhanna.